10 Pre-Flight Airport Mistakes. Airlines won't warn you in 2026. Travel stress doesn't start at the security line. It starts before you even leave your house. Every year, millions of travelers make simple pre-flight mistakes that cost them money, waste hours at the airport, and sometimes even cause them to miss their flight completely. And the worst part? Most people don't even realize they're making these mistakes until it's too late. Airlines won't warn you, airports won't remind you, and travel websites rarely talk about them. Because many of these mistakes actually make the system more profitable for airlines, more expensive for passengers, and more stressful for everyone involved. In 2026, airports are more crowded, security rules are stricter, flights are fuller, and delays happen more often than ever before. That means the small things you do before your flight can make the difference between a smooth trip and a travel nightmare. In this video, we're going through 12 pre-flight airport mistakes in the exact order most travelers make them, starting from the moment you get ready at home all the way to the second you step onto the plane. These are the same mistakes airline staff see every day, the same mistakes frequent flyers avoid, and the same mistakes that can cost you time, money, comfort, and sometimes your entire trip. Some of these will surprise you. Some of them you probably made on your last flight, and a few could actually stop you from boarding if you don't know the rule. So if you want to travel smarter, move through the airport faster, avoid extra fees, and make every trip easier in 2026, this video is for you. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new travel tips, airport hacks, and airline secrets every week that can save you money and help you avoid problems most travelers never see coming. And trust me, the #1 mistake on this list is the one almost everyone makes. Let's start with mistake number 1. Mistake number 1, arriving with just enough time. This is one of the most common travel mistakes, and it's also one of the most dangerous. Many travelers believe that if their flight leaves at a certain time, they only need to arrive a little before boarding starts. Maybe you've done online check-in, maybe you're not checking a bag, and maybe you think you can move quickly through security. So you plan your trip to the airport down to the minute. That's exactly where the problem begins. Air travel doesn't run on best-case scenarios. It runs on unpredictable delays, long lines, traffic jams, and unexpected problems you can't control. The standard advice has always been at least 2 hours before a domestic flight and 3 hours before an international flight. But in 2026, even that can feel tight during busy travel seasons. Airports are more crowded than ever. Security procedures take longer, and new identification rules mean more people are getting stopped at checkpoints. One slow line, one terminal change, or one traffic delay on the way to the airport can turn a comfortable arrival into a stressful sprint to the gate. And here's what most people don't realize. Boarding often closes earlier than they expect. Many airlines stop boarding 15 to 20 minutes before departure, not at departure time. So if you arrive late, the plane can leave without you even if it's still sitting at the gate. Frequent flyers treat arrival time like insurance. They don't aim to get there just in time. They aim to get there early enough that nothing can ruin the trip. Because once you miss a flight, fixing it can cost hundreds of dollars, hours of waiting, or even an overnight delay. The smart move is simple. Treat the 2-hour or 3-hour rule as the absolute minimum, not the goal. Before you leave home, check traffic conditions, check your airline app, and look at airport security wait times if they're available. Give yourself extra time so you can walk to your gate instead of running. Arriving early might feel unnecessary when everything goes perfectly, but travel rarely goes perfectly, and the one time you cut it too close could be the one time it costs you the entire trip. And that brings us to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2, wrong terminal drop. This mistake happens more often than people think, especially at large airports, and it can turn a calm arrival into instant panic. You pull up to the airport, grab your bags, thank the driver, and walk inside, only to realize the airline on the sign above the door isn't yours. Now you're in the wrong terminal, Your flight is boarding soon, and suddenly you're dragging your luggage across crowded walkways looking for a shuttle, a train, or a bus to the correct building. At smaller airports, this might only cost you a few minutes. But at major airports, terminals can be miles apart. Some airports require you to take a train to switch terminals. Others require you to go back outside and re-enter through security again. And during busy travel hours, that mistake alone can make you miss your flight. The reason this happens is simple. Most travelers assume the driver knows where to go. If you're using a taxi or rideshare, you might just say the name of the airport and expect them to drop you in the right place. But drivers don't always know which airline you're flying, and many airports have multiple terminals with dozens of airlines spread across them. It gets even more confusing with code-share flights. You might buy a ticket from one airline, but the flight actually departs from a partner airline's terminal. If you don't check carefully, you can end up at the wrong building without realizing it until it's too late. The fix takes less than 10 seconds, but most people skip it. Before you even get in the car, open your airline app or your booking confirmation and look for the terminal number. It will always be listed there. When the driver arrives, tell them clearly which terminal you need, not just the airport name. If you're being dropped off by a friend or family member, do the same thing. Confirm the terminal before you leave the house, not after you arrive at the airport. Experienced travelers never assume the terminal. They verify it every time, even if they've flown the same route before. Because airports change, airlines move, and gates get reassigned all the time. One quick check can save you from a long walk, a missed boarding call, or a very expensive rebooking. And once you make it inside the correct terminal, there's another mistake many travelers make without even realizing it. Mistake number 3, trusting only the airline. Airline apps are convenient. They show your boarding pass, your gate number, your departure time, and sometimes even notifications about delays. Because of that, many travelers assume the app always has the most accurate information. They check it once, see their gate number, and stop paying attention to everything else around them. That's where the mistake happens. Airports are constantly changing in real time, and gate assignments can switch without much warning. A flight that was supposed to leave from one gate can suddenly be moved to another terminal, another concourse, or the opposite end of the airport. Sometimes the change happens hours before boarding, and sometimes it happens only minutes before the announcement. The problem is that airline apps don't always update instantly. Notifications can be delayed. Your phone might lose signal, or the app might glitch at the worst possible moment. Meanwhile, the departure boards inside the terminal are updated directly by airport systems, which means they're often the most reliable source of information. You've probably seen it happen before. Passengers sitting comfortably at the wrong gate, staring at their phones, completely unaware their flight has moved. Then, suddenly, they hear a last-minute announcement, or they notice everyone around them leaving, and by the time they realize what happened, boarding is already closing. This mistake becomes even more serious at large airports where gates are far apart. A gate change might require a long walk, a train ride, or going through another security checkpoint. If you don't notice the change quickly, you may not make it in time, even if you were early to the airport. The fix is simple, but it requires a habit most travelers don't have. Use the airline app as a guide, not as your only source of truth. Every time you pass a departure screen in the terminal, glance at it and confirm your flight number, gate, and boarding time. When you arrive at your gate, check the monitor above the counter to make sure your destination matches your ticket. Frequent flyers do this automatically because they know gate changes happen all the time. They don't assume the information is final until they see it on the airport display. Trust the app, but always verify. And once you finally reach the correct gate, there's another mistake that creates stress for everyone around you. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. Mistake number 4, standing in line too early, gate crowd. You've probably seen this before. The gate agent hasn't even started boarding yet, but a crowd is already forming in front of the counter. People stand there holding their bags, watching the desk, slowly building a line that doesn't actually move. Some travelers call this gate crowding. And frequent flyers have another nickname for it: gate lice. It happens on almost every flight. As soon as the announcement says boarding will begin soon, passengers rush to stand near the gate, even when their boarding group hasn't been called. The idea is simple. People think that if they get in line early, they'll get on the plane faster, find space for their carry-on, and avoid being forced to check their bag. But in reality, standing there early doesn't help at all. Airlines board in groups for a reason. Your seat is already assigned, and your boarding group determines when you get on the plane, not how early you stand in line. In fact, many gate scanners will not even let you board if your group hasn't been called yet. All that waiting does is make the area crowded, stressful, and harder for everyone to move. It can also slow the boarding process down when too many people stand near the gate. It blocks passengers who actually need to board first, like families with small children, people needing assistance, or priority passengers. The result is confusion, delays, and announcements telling people to step back, which almost nobody does. Another reason people crowd the gate is fear of running out of overhead bin space. With fuller flights in recent years, that fear feels real. But standing in line early doesn't guarantee anything. If the flight is full, overhead space may run out no matter when you stand up. Experienced travelers know the smarter move is to stay seated until their group is called. Use that time to charge your phone, check your gate again, organize your bag, or just relax. You're about to sit in a cramped seat for hours, so there's no advantage to standing in a line longer than necessary. Boarding works best when everyone follows the order, not when everyone rushes at once. Wait for your group, walk up when it's your turn, and the whole process becomes faster and less stressful. And while you're waiting at the gate, there's another mistake many travelers make without thinking: connecting to the wrong Wi-Fi network. Mistake number 5. Using public airport Wi-Fi without protection. You're sitting at the gate, you have time before boarding, and your phone shows a network called Free Airport Wi-Fi. Without thinking twice, you tap Connect. It feels harmless. After all, everyone else is using it too. But this is one of the easiest ways for travelers to put their personal information at risk. Airports are one of the most common places for cybercriminals to target people because travelers are distracted, in a hurry, and often connecting to public networks without checking if they're safe. Hackers know this, and they take advantage of it by creating fake Wi-Fi networks designed to look official. These are sometimes called evil twin networks. A hacker sets up a hotspot with a name that looks almost identical to the real airport Wi-Fi, hoping passengers will connect without noticing the difference. Once you're connected to the wrong network, they may be able to see the information you send, including passwords, emails, and even credit card details. Even when the Wi-Fi network is real, public connections are not always secure. Unlike your home internet, public Wi-Fi is shared by hundreds of people at the same time. Without protection, your data can be exposed more easily, especially if you log into banking apps, shopping sites, or email accounts. Most travelers don't realize the risk because nothing looks wrong. The internet works, the pages load, and everything feels normal. But in the background, your information could be visible to someone else on the same network. The safest option is to avoid public Wi-Fi completely when possible. Using your phone's mobile data or personal hotspot is usually much more secure. If you do need to use airport Wi-Fi, always check the official network name on airport signs or screens before connecting. Never guess, and never connect to a network that looks suspicious or has extra words added to the name. Another smart habit is using a VPN, which creates a secure, encrypted connection that makes it much harder for anyone to see what you're doing online. Many frequent travelers use one every time they connect to public internet, especially in airports. Free Wi-Fi may be convenient, but it's not always safe. And right after security, there's another mistake that costs travelers money every single day: buying something you could have brought for free. Mistake number 6, buying expensive water after security. Almost every traveler has experienced this. You get through the security checkpoint, walk into the terminal, and suddenly you feel thirsty. You stop at a shop, grab a bottle of water, and then you see the price. $5, $6, sometimes even more for something that costs a fraction of that outside the airport. It feels unavoidable, but most of the time this mistake could have been prevented before you even left home. The reason so many people end up buying overpriced drinks is because of the liquid rules at security. You can't bring full bottles through the checkpoint, so travelers assume they have no choice but to buy something after they get inside. Every day, security bins fill up with half-empty water bottles that people forgot to throw away before screening. And once those bottles are gone, the only option seems to be paying airport prices. Airports know this, and that's why drinks inside the terminal are so expensive. They understand that passengers have limited options after security, especially if they have a long wait before boarding. What feels like a small purchase can easily add up, especially if you travel often or with family. The smart travelers handle this differently. Instead of bringing a full bottle, they bring an empty, reusable water bottle in their carry-on bag. Empty bottles are allowed through security, and once you're inside the terminal, most airports have water fountains or bottle filling stations where you can refill for free. It takes less than a minute, saves money, and means you always have water with you during the flight. This small habit also makes travel more comfortable. Airplane cabins are dry, and staying hydrated helps you feel less tired, less cramped, and less stressed during long trips. Frequent flyers know that having water ready before boarding is one of the easiest ways to make a flight more comfortable. It may seem like a small thing, but small habits make a big difference when you travel often. Bring the bottle empty, fill it after security, and skip the overpriced drinks. And speaking of comfort, there's another mistake many travelers make right before boarding, and they don't realize it until the plane is already in the air. Mistake number 7, skipping bathroom before boarding. It sounds like a small thing, but this mistake can make the first hour of your flight very uncomfortable. Many travelers assume they can just use the restroom on the plane, so they ignore the chance to go while they're still in the terminal. After all, the aircraft has bathrooms, so what's the problem? The problem is timing. What most people don't realize is that once boarding begins, you may not get another chance to use the restroom for a long time. First, you have to wait while everyone boards the plane. Then the doors close, the safety demonstration starts, and the aircraft begins to taxi. During this time, passengers are required to stay seated with their seatbelts fastened. Even if you really need to go, you usually can't get up. And it doesn't stop there. After takeoff, the seatbelt sign often stays on until the plane reaches cruising altitude. Depending on the flight, that can take 20, 30, or even 45 minutes after boarding. By the time the sign turns off, several other passengers are already waiting for the restroom, and now you're standing in a narrow aisle trying to keep your balance while the plane moves. Airplane bathrooms are also much smaller than terminal restrooms, and turbulence can make using them uncomfortable. What could have been a quick, easy stop in the airport turns into a stressful wait in a cramped cabin. Frequent flyers avoid this problem by making one simple habit part of their routine. About 15 to 20 minutes before boarding begins, they go to the restroom in the terminal, even if they don't feel like they need to right away. Airport restrooms are larger, easier to use, and you don't have to worry about seatbelt signs or long lines in the aisle. This small step can make a big difference, especially on longer flights where the first chance to stand up might not come for a while. It also helps you relax once you're on board because you're not worried about waiting for the right moment to get up. Travel is more comfortable when you plan ahead, even for simple things. Use the restroom before boarding, not after, because once you step onto the plane, there's another mistake many travelers make that slows everyone down. And it starts with the way their bag is packed. Mistake number 8, no final bag check. By the time you reach the gate, most travelers think the hard part is over. You packed at home, you made it through security, and now all you have to do is wait for your flight. But this is exactly when many people make a mistake that slows them down, stresses them out, and sometimes holds up everyone behind them. They never do a final check of their bag. This mistake shows up in 2 different ways. The first happens at the security checkpoint. You reach the front of the line, and suddenly you're digging through your bag looking for your laptop, your liquids, or your passport because they're buried somewhere at the bottom. While you search, the line behind you stops moving, and the pressure starts to build. The second problem happens during boarding. You get on the plane, step into the aisle, and realize your carry-on is overpacked or disorganized. Now you're trying to rearrange things while people behind you are waiting to get to their seats. Overhead bins fill up quickly, and the longer you take, the more stressful the situation becomes. All of this can be avoided with one simple habit that experienced travelers use every time they fly: the final bag check. Before boarding starts, take a moment while you're sitting at the gate and go through a quick mental checklist. Make sure your boarding pass and ID are easy to reach. Check that your liquids and electronics are in the outer pocket of your bag, not buried under clothes. If you have headphones, snacks, or anything you'll need during the flight, move them to the top so you don't have to open your suitcase in the aisle. This is also the time to make sure your carry-on will actually fit in the overhead bin without a struggle. If the bag is overstuffed, fix it now, not when everyone is waiting behind you. Frequent flyers don't wait until the last second to get organized. They prepare before boarding begins, so the whole process feels smooth and easy. A quick bag check takes less than a minute, but it can save you from a lot of stress once you're on the move. And right after this, there's another mistake many travelers make because they trust their phone too much, and it can cause serious problems at the gate. Mistake number 9. Only having digital boarding pass. Using your phone for travel feels normal now. You check in on the airline app, save your boarding pass, and assume that as long as your phone is with you, everything will go smoothly. Most of the time it does. But when something goes wrong, this mistake can turn into a serious problem very quickly. Airports are one of the worst places to depend on a single piece of technology. Phones run out of battery, apps crash, screens freeze, and internet connections can become slow or disappear completely inside crowded terminals. If your boarding pass only exists inside your phone and something happens at the wrong moment, you could find yourself standing at the gate with no way to prove you're supposed to be on the flight. It happens more often than people think. A traveler reaches the scanner, opens the app, and suddenly the screen won't load, or the phone battery drops to 1% just as boarding starts. Sometimes the app logs out and now you need a password you can't remember. Meanwhile, the line keeps moving, and the gate agent is asking you to step aside while other passengers board. Even worse, this can happen when you're in a hurry, when the gate has changed, or when boarding is almost finished. At that point, every minute matters, and fixing a simple problem can take longer than you have. Smart travelers never rely on just one version of their boarding pass. They always have a backup. One easy option is to take a screenshot of your boarding pass after you check in. Screenshots can usually be opened even without internet service. Another good habit is saving the pass to your phone's digital wallet, which often works offline and loads faster than the airline app. The most reliable backup, though, is still a printed copy. Paper doesn't run out of battery, doesn't lose signal, and doesn't crash when you need it most. Many frequent flyers keep a printout in their bag just in case, even if they plan to use their phone. It may seem old-fashioned, but having a backup can save your trip when technology fails. And once you make it to security with your boarding pass ready, there's another mistake travelers make that can cost them a lot of time: choosing the wrong line. Mistake number 10. Choosing the wrong security line. At first glance, this seems simple. You walk up to the security area, glance at the lines, and naturally pick the shortest one. It feels logical. After all, shorter lines should move faster, right? But anyone who's flown frequently knows that the shortest line is not always the fastest. In fact, picking the wrong line can cost you 10, 15, even 20 minutes, and in some cases, cause you to miss your flight entirely. Here's the problem. People tend to make line choices based on instinct rather than strategy. Most travelers, being right-handed, gravitate toward lines on the right. Others just pick the line they've used before or the one closest to the entrance. While convenient, These choices are often crowded with people who are traveling slowly, families with small children, travelers unfamiliar with the process, or passengers with extra carry-ons. The speed of a line is dictated less by its length and more by the people in it. A line that appears long might actually move quickly if it's mostly solo business travelers who know exactly what to do. Meanwhile, a short line of first-time flyers can crawl along at a frustrating pace. So, what's the solution? It comes down to two key strategies: observation and profiling. Take a quick 10 to 15 seconds to scan all available lines before choosing. Look to the left as well as the right. In many airports, lines on the far left are often less crowded simply because fewer travelers notice them. Then, observe the people in each line. Solo travelers with minimal luggage usually move faster. Families with strollers or passengers carrying oversized bags will slow the process. Pick the line that not only looks shorter, but also has the fastest moving passengers. Another tip: be flexible. If you notice the line you picked isn't moving efficiently, it's okay to switch. A smart traveler keeps an eye on the flow and adjusts in real time. Those few extra seconds of awareness can save you precious minutes and reduce stress. Security lines are one of the biggest choke points in air travel. Making a smart choice here sets the tone for the rest of your airport experience. Avoiding this mistake means less rushing, less stress, and a smoother transition from check-in to boarding. And once you're through security, there's another mistake almost every traveler makes: forgetting essential in-flight items that make the difference between a comfortable flight and a miserable one. And that wraps up the 10 pre-flight airport mistakes that airlines won't warn you about in 2026. From arriving with barely enough time, to standing in line too early, to relying solely on your phone or app, each of these mistakes might seem small, but together, they add up to stress, wasted money, and sometimes even missed flights. The good news is that every single one of these can be avoided with a little planning, a few extra minutes, and some simple habits that frequent flyers use every day. Remember, traveling smarter isn't about rushing or cutting corners. It's about preparation, awareness, and using the tricks that make airport life easier. Bring an empty water bottle, double-check your terminal, stay seated until your boarding group is called, back up your boarding pass, and always keep your essentials and comfort items handy. Small changes like these can make your trip smoother, cheaper, and far less stressful. If you found these tips helpful, make sure you hit the like button. It helps more travelers see this video. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss future travel hacks, airport secrets, and insider tips that airlines and airports don't tell you. I'd also love to hear from you. Which of these mistakes have you made before? Or which one do you think you're most likely to avoid next time? Drop a comment below and share your experience with the community. Safe travels out there, and remember, planning a little ahead can save a lot of stress later. Every trip can be faster, smoother, and more enjoyable if you just avoid these common pitfalls. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video with even more tips to help you travel smarter in 2026.